Hey everyone, I've been trying to do this for a very long time. As some of you might know, I'm a producer, I'm a songwriter, and I've been talking about this with my friends, my family, everyone, but I was never able to really explain what I do and how it works. And so that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna take apart this song. It's called Real Friends, and I have lyrics and a melody. I didn't record that yet, but I'm gonna play it front to back and I'm gonna let you listen to it. And after that, I'm gonna briefly and quickly go over every single part. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Right? So let me explain this whole thing to you now. Basically, I'm gonna go over it front to back really briefly. I'm gonna do it without the melody, and I'm gonna show that to you later on. I have the lyrics here. But for now, we're just gonna go over each part front to back. So the whole song starts with this ambient city noise. And the story to that, real short, is actually that I couldn't find any really good city noises in the internet. And so I just took my laptop and I went to the window, opened it up, and recorded outside noises outside my flat. And that's what came out. right? So after that fades out, we start with the intro itself. Probably the most dominant thing is these guitars. Right? It's two layers. One of them sounds like this. Sorry, like this. One of them sounds like this. They're panned right and left, but this one has an automation on it. So once we start with verse 1, it pans to center because it's the main guitar of verse 1. So that's the guitars in the intro. Right? So the bass I have in the intro and also verse 1 is this sub bass, and it sounds like this. Right? And it stays the same in verse 1. It just cuts out a filter a tiny bit. So I think I have a filter on that, but it might be in the other. Some parts of this I exported them and put the audio file back into the track. In this case, there's not even a filter on this, so I might have lied to you, but oh yes, there is. So it cuts out a filter a tiny bit. Right? And that's basically the sub bass for the intro and also verse 1. So right here we have the drums coming in verse 1. It's just a simple shaker and a snap. The shaker, I think, is layered with a hi-hat. Yes, it is. So that's the shaker we have. Nothing crazy, it's just a shaker. Then we have the hi-hat. Right, and we have the snap. It's quite a dry snap, but I wanted it to be like that because it can cut through the mix more and it's more up front, and I wanted that to be that way. So that's the drums in verse 1. We have the guitar that I explained to you before, but it cuts to center. Right, and we have a different guitar melody actually. So I have two different guitar melodies in this one MIDI audio track. Sorry, I have two different guitar melodies in this audio track, and the second one comes in verse 1. Right, we have one effect that goes through the whole song basically, except the chorus, and I forgot to show that to you in the intro. It goes like this. Right, and it stays the same in the verse 1. So what also comes in verse 1 is these chords. They sound like this. So all together, we're gonna play a small part of the intro and a small part of verse 1 all together. Right? Intro. Verse 1. Now we get into verse 2, and this is actually quite a big shift. So in verse 2, we start with the chords, but they get out of filter quite a lot, so we end up with this. Compare that to this. Right? After that, I say after that, simultaneously, so in verse 2, we get the first guitar part again. So it sounds like this. We get the whole drum part, not the entire drum part, but a big part of it. Right? And we get the big bass sound. I'm gonna do that with a metronome for the rhythm. Right? And so we just keep the same effects part. Sorry for those tiny, for those CPU issues there, but I think we can live with that just for now. Yeah, basically that's verse 2. Right? So now we head into the pre-chorus. That's quite a big shift. So once we head into the pre-chorus, we get the synth, the big synth part, and it sounds like this. Right? We get the same guitars. Sorry, that's the wrong part. We get the same guitars. We cut the drum part back to only a kick. Right, and we get the same bass. And also, once more, the same effects. Sorry for that. But this time we add this small upriser that's supposed to cut into the synths. So with the synths it will sound like this. Right? So altogether the pre-chorus will sound like this. right? And now we head into the chorus. So once we start with the chorus, we actually get this big lead. Sounds like this. Right? And the first layer of the lead sounds like this. That's just one of the two groups, and the second group sounds like this. So that's a slightly different preset with shaper box on it, but I will explain that to you in depth later on. We keep the same synths going. Right, and we get the whole drum part. We cut away the guitars, no guitars, but all the drums. Right, and we get the big bass, and this time with a rolling bass line underneath, so it sounds like this. Right, and on top of that, we get the chords again that we had before. Alright, so let's play the entire chorus now for you guys. So once we head into verse 3 and 4, we get the piano part again, or chords, right here. Alright, we get guitars again. And we get different drums, not really that different, but we take out the shaker. We have a nice fill in the beginning, and we cut it back to its fundamentals. Alright, and we get a nice bass part. Alright, and beneath all of that we have effects. And I didn't play the effects before because the effects in pre-chorus and chorus aren't that many or that exciting. But I'm just gonna play the transition for you and the beginning of verse 3. Alright, so let's play verse 3 now. Alright, so now we head into verse 4, and we have this other guitar part that comes in at verse 4. I'm just going to solo it for you. Alright, and the guitars all together sound like this. Alright, we have the same drums again, but this time with the shaker. And we have the bass part again. Right, we have very few effects this time. Only the same effect as in the first two verses. Alright, and so that basically almost sums up verse 4, but we have the chords again. Right, so that's verse 4 there for you. Alright, so then we head into this pre-chorus bridge type section, and we get these chords. We get a different drum part, only a shaker this time, and it evolves into this. We get a snap in the second part. Right, and we also get the bass line again. Alright, and we have just the same effect as before once more. Alright, and now we head into the last big chorus, and we have a few different elements. I'm just going to go over them quite briefly. We get the chords here, they stay the same in the entire chorus. We get the same big lead again. And that evolves in the second part and the last part of the second chorus, and we get this. Right, so here we get another big layer to the leads, and it goes like this. Right, and we get the same synths again, they don't change, they stay as they are. Right, and then we have the drums, all together, they don't change, they stay the same in the entire chorus section. Right, and we have the bass part one more time. Rolling bass line, and that's what we have. And basically we have a few different effects, few different risers. I'm just gonna go over them very briefly for you. We have this one. Oh, sorry. Right, we have this one. We have this one. And we have this one. Same as before. And then we end the whole song with this one. Alright, let's play this part for you. Let's go. Here we go. Alright, so that's the entire song. Right now, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to make a new video. This is going to be cut together in the end. For all of you who really don't want to have me waffling about in-depth things of music technology and theory, you can tune out now. I'm going to explain every singular instrument in depth right now. To all of you who've been watching up to now, thank you very much. I hope you liked it. I hope you could gain some insight. Thank you for watching, and to all of you who want to keep watching, even greater, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna explain everything to you now. Thank you. Right, welcome back, everyone. If you stayed, that's amazing. I just finished editing the first video. I'm done with that now. That was quite some work. But we are now going to break down this entire song in depth. Let's go. Come on. I am hyped. I have to do something else now after editing for hours. So basically, this whole thing, what we're going to do now, because I told you I would break down the lyrics in depth and the melody before, I did not forget that. We're going to do that now. So basically, I started this entire song, obviously not with the melody, but I started with the chords. But we're going to get back to that later on. I'm gonna break down these this melody now and these lyrics now. So how this all starts, let's just listen to the first few bars. Right, and we have lyrics for that. So they go like this. Hey, how's your day been? Good, fine, it went clean. I'm just a bit depressed and stressed with things that I've seen. Well, you'll be fine, well, you'll be fine though. Yup, trust me, I know. I guess I'll just move on and find some space to lay low. Right, now let's do that whole thing again with at least the chords. Let's go. Hey, how's your day been? Good, fine, it went clean. I'm just a bit depressed and stressed with things that I've seen. Well, you'll be fine though. Yup, trust me, I know. I guess I'll just move on and find some space to lay low. Right, we obviously have the drum part coming in then, and so on and so forth. So that's the lyrics. They are just a placeholder melody. For now, I'm not gonna sing the whole part. Obviously, this is an unreleased track. I don't want to spoil everything. I've spoiled almost everything already. I want there to be at least a tiny bit of surprise remaining. So that's all I'm gonna do about the vocals for now. We're gonna get back into the song. So as I said, I started with these chords. right? So basically, those are three separate layers. I usually do my chords in this way. So the three layers we have, I can't show that to you with the actual layers because I rendered that out. But basically, what's happening here is we have a melody, we have the chords themselves, just four chords for 4 bars, and we also have a melody addition. Basically, that's chords in form of a melody to make the melody itself stronger. And the goal of that is to just make it a chord progression that doesn't sound like a melody but still has a melody of itself. So listen to this one more time. Right, so you can actually, if you look at the audio file, you can see that there's chords, just simple chords, right? These are just the simple chords, four chords, 4 bars. And then we have this melody, and it's basically just the same notes, but they are in a different rhythm, right? So yeah, that's basically the chord progression. There's not much more I can explain about that. All I can say is the plugins I used are reverb, they are compression, some OTT, obviously some EQ, and I can't show that to you on the chords, but I did the same process. I've used the same general way of processing that whole thing on different instruments, so you can just apply that if it's a thing. So that's the chords. We have, I'm gonna go top to bottom now. I'm not gonna go front to back. We have the chords. We have the lead synth. So that's the big synth we have right here. Right, so let's break that down right now. Basically, we have the very first layer. We have two groups. We have this group and we have this group, right? And we have a third group coming in the very last chorus. So the first group goes like this. We have 2 layers in each group. First layer, right? And second layer. Basically, this is the high layer. It's for the high-end energy that gives you this yes, come on feeling. And this is the whole body of the lead. That's not as high. So that's why we have the second layer. Basically, it is high, but it's, how can I explain this? It's not. It's more body. It's more of a big sound and less of an energetic sound. And so that's what the second layer does. That's what we get with the second layer. So let me just demonstrate and not talk. Now if we take that second layer out, right, put it back in again, we lose some of that energy without that second layer. And obviously the first layer is the whole body of the sound. Right, we have that same story, the exact same story with the second group, but we add one plugin, and that's Shaperbox. Basically what this does is we have a filter, we have it set to 16th notes in each bar, and uh, just a simple 4/4 rhythm, and basically this just stutters the whole group. We have some stereo widening right here going on. I think I have the same thing. I don't. So this is stereo widened and stuttered. Listen to this. Right? So if you put them together, they'll sound like this. Sorry, by the way, there will be some CPU issues, tiny issues sometimes, but we just have to live with that. So that's basically the lead melody in the first chorus. We have the same melody in the second chorus, but in the second half of the second chorus, we get this third group coming in. It's 2 layers again. They sound like this. Right? And one of those layers sounds like this. Alright, and the second layer sounds like this. Alright, so that's basically, one more time. Right, that's the lead melody. The plugins I used on this entire lead group are the following. So I sent every group, all the 3 groups go to one group, to one bus. And on that bus we have Pro Q3, so we have reverb. I just cut out all the low end information up to 73 Hertz. I did some mud removal at 400 Hertz, actually 400 Hertz. And I added some high frequency information at about 7K Hertz. Yeah, that's basically the EQ. I have a glue compressor. That's just to glue those 3 layers together. I have it set to quite a slow attack and automatic release time. I have some saturation, some slight saturation, just to make the whole sound a bit bigger. I have shaper box, so I actually do have that one more time with some stereo widening for all 3 groups. And I have another EQ plugin. This time I just take out all the low end information up to 100 Hertz. And I take out all the high-end information as well up to 17K, and that's just because if you have too much high-end information on the track, it will sizzle out the high-end, and that will just sound like your eardrums are being sawed apart, and that's really not such a nice sound. So I usually always do that. I do it with every instrument except hi-hats, some effects, and maybe some drum parts. I don't do it with the kick. The kick is the only instrument that I don't EQ at all in that kind of way. I have all the low end, I have all the high end. The kick is just present in every part of the mix. But yeah, basically if we group all of that together, we will end up with this sound without any plugins, right? With nothing added, we have this. And with them added, we have this. As you see, it's a much bigger sound. It's a lot bigger. Now so we're going to turn that off for now, just to demonstrate the groups. The first group, the difficult thing is I have some reverb and OTT on these instruments, on the single instruments as well. I added some more reverb and OTT, so we're not gonna go over that in the groups right now. But I also just added some EQ in the separate groups. 93 hertz. I did some mud removal. I added some high-end energy, basic stuff. So we're gonna turn all of that off, and we're gonna go straight to the first track of this lead. So basically, it's a Serum preset I made myself. I named it Basic Stamp Sound Harsh Extra, and it's basically a sawtooth sound. I added a basic saw wave. I added a mini wave. That's a different kind of saw wave. I added a sine wave just for the low end energy and the body of the sound. I let all of those three wavetables run through a filter. I added a sub wavetable with a saw wave. I also let that run through the filter, and I also added some noise and let that run through the same filter. I did that kind of shape in the second envelope with a very fast attack. I had a decent decay on it and some release, and I made it a stab type sound. I routed that to the cutoff of the filter section. So basically what I'm telling you is we get this sound. If we turn off the filter, it will just be this, right? But if we have the filter with that cut off, we have this, right? And so I have basically the same shape in envelope 1 just for the sound itself. I have no effects other than delay on Serum, and that's that. That's the story for Serum. I have the same exact Serum preset on the second layer of the whole song, and I just added the very basics. I added some reverb and some OTT. So without any effects, just the raw sound with only delay will sound like this. If we even turn off the delay on that sound, we will get this. You can see the chords being played down here, right? So that's basically the entire sound. I added some reverb and some delay, obviously, in Serum. And I added some OTT. I added some more reverb and some more OTT in the bus that I sent those two groups to. Right, and I added some EQ. And then obviously we have those two groups together. And we obviously also have the lead bus, and that's with all the effects. It will sound like this. Right, and we have the same exact principle for the third group, second group. If we play that alone, you can see I just used a different order because I didn't want OTT to affect the whole reverb. I only wanted it to affect the sound itself. So I put the reverb after OTT. That's just for the bus that I sent those two instruments to. I used Shaperbox, as I said, as I explained before, and I also used an EQ. It's just the same EQ as up there with a slightly different configuration. As you can see, some tiny bit less mud removal right here, and just tiny bit different. And I have the tracks themselves running through Serum. I even think, yeah, it's the extent. No, it's actually a soft. It's a different preset. Basic stab sound soft. I have no effects on that whatsoever. I have it run through a filter. I have envelope 2 routed to the cutoff. I have a sub. I have a saw wave, another saw wave, and I have a sine wave for the body. And it's a tighter filter and a stronger filter, so it will sound like this. Right? And basically we have some reverb, some OTT, same story as before, and that's basically the entire group. I have the same story for the third group of the lead sound, some reverb, some compression this time, and some EQ. EQ is the same as before, just a tiny bit different again. And I have some reverb, some OTT, and the same preset basic stab sound soft. Same story in the second track right here, right? So same preset. Basically the whole reason for that is you never ever want a sound to be layered with itself. That will just add up volume. So if you just EQ it a tiny bit different, you add some reverb that's before OTT or OTT before the reverb, that will make the sound different enough for the DAW to not add up the sound to its volume, but it will actually add up the frequencies, so it just sounds a bit different. That's the lead sound. One more time. Right, and all of them together. Alright, so I told you I'm gonna be very in-depth with this whole thing. I hope you all are able to follow. We have the synth track. Again, I have basically rendered that out, and we're gonna group it and actually call that whole track synths. Right. Alright, so we have this track named synths now. Same story as with the chords. I rendered it out. I can't show you the whole entire tracks as I did with the lead, but basically what's happening is we have 3 layers. We have a high-end layer, we have a body layer, and we have a rhythm layer. And these 3 layers just create the big synth sound that I also created in Serum. I have reverb, I have OTT, I have compression, I have EQ, I have some stereo widening with a plugin I showed you right here. Is called Shaperbox. These 3 layers are what make the synths. Right, 3 layers. One of them is the very harsh layer for the body, one of them is the higher layer for the high-end information, and one of them is just the, I say rhythm, but it's just a dry layer basically that gives it the big feeling. Right, so that's the synths. I have the guitars. I make my guitars because I can't play guitar myself, and I have few friends that really know how to play guitar, and they don't have electric guitars themselves. So the way I make my guitars is with ample sound, ample guitar. Guitars are very different to replicate in a DAW than the normal way, because you never hit all the notes on a guitar at the same time, so you can never really make a very, very realistic guitar with just normal presets in the sound section. And so I use ample sound. I did still do it in the I did still do it in the chords tab of Ableton like this, with singular notes, just because I wanted it to be a guitar melody. But I still used ample sound because the guitar sounds are just way more realistic. So we have 3 layers. The first layer is actually a guitar. You can see that I didn't use the notes on this one. I just used the plugin itself to trigger an actual guitar playing. So it sounds like a real guitar. It sounds like this. Right? And on this I have ample guitar. I can actually show you. So that's what I did. I have it set to strumming. I have my rhythm right here. Right, I have the stroke volume down a bit. I have a release time of 3.7 seconds. I put the strum time up all the way. That's why it sounds like singular notes. If I turn that down, it will sound like this. Then it will actually be strumming, right? But I don't want that. I want it to be more ambient and like this. Right, so that's what we have right here. Then I just didn't change anything else. I only changed the velocity. I turned that up in the end to 13. I put in the chords, so we have I can show that to you. We have basically 5 different chords. It's A major to D minor to C major to G minor to actually A sharp major to F major to C major to G minor. So this will look like that. So we have A sharp major to D minor to C major to G minor to A sharp major to D minor to F major to G minor. That's the chords that I use in this song. And I have the second track, and that's not with, I bounced that one, so I only have EQ on this track right now, and I just took out the whole low-end information up to 93 Hertz. And it sounds like this. It's ample guitar again, but I rendered it and it's singular notes. Right, I have the second layer right here. That's a bit more detailed. And I have them panned right and left, but this one is automated, so it goes back to center. I think I said that in the first part of the video, in the less in-depth part. Right, so it's centered here. It will be uncentered here again, because I have the layers playing together. So this all sounds like this. Right, now the biggest part of it all, the drums. So I have how many? 6 groups. Actually, 4 groups and 2 tracks in the whole drum group called drums. The first group is just the high-end group. With a shaker. And some hi-hats. Right? I have compression just because it was very quiet and very dull. And I have some EQ to cut out everything below 137 Hertz. So if we turn that off, it will sound like this. Right? If we turn it back on, it will sound like this. So both of those run through a group, and this group has some more compression and some more EQ cut out. That's what I just showed you. I'm sorry. Yeah, basically that's the shaker and hi-hat section. Not much to say about that. I have a compression preset on the entire drum group just to compress it all together. And then we have the second group, and I think, yeah, that's the kick drum. It's 2 kicks layered. The first one is called basic kick, and it goes like this. It's a very basic kick. Right, and we also have the second layer. That's a more present kick with a more present click on the high end. And what I did was I simply just layered them on top of each other. As I said, I don't EQ kicks because they are just present in the entire spectrum of the mix. I have it compressed quite a bit, and I layered them to sound like this. So that's the body of the kick, right? And that's the high end and the click. So yeah, and we have a snap. That's the dry snap sound. I wanted it to be dry because I wanted it to be quite present in the mix. It has a tiny bit of reverb, as you can see, almost nothing, but just in order to hit. The funny thing is, I had it set to a large preset, but then I created the tiny preset out of the large preset, so it's still called reverb large, even though it's tiny. But basically, I added some reverb just in order to make it less dry, but still dry. Right, that's just too dry. So I added a tiny bit of reverb. I added some EQ just to take out some harsh frequencies at 2K and to cut away everything below 173 Hertz and cut away some of the high end above 19 kilohertz. And I experimented with a lot of automation here, but I scratched that. And I basically added some compression just to make it more present in the mix once again. That's all I did to the snap. Alright, we have the third group, fourth part of the whole drum section. That's 2 tracks again. We have a snare, and it's called Feel the Rhythm Snare. It's a different song, but I exported that snare, right, and I still use it in many of my songs as a basic snare preset. I just compressed that a bunch, and I layered it with one singular snare hit right here. Oh, sorry. I think that's just a louder snare, the same snare. Yeah, it's just differently compressed. It's actually just the exact same snare but a little bit louder. Tiny details sometimes make a big difference. I ran it through an EQ, uh, took out everything below 100 hertz and everything above 14 kilohertz. So altogether, it will sound like, I don't have to show you even because it's literally just uh, this snare drum and one louder version of it. Then we have the main snare, and that's that one, right? I'm still thinking about changing the snare preset just because it's a bit much sometimes. But basically, what I did is I compressed it and I ran it through an EQ. I took out some of the high end because it was very sizzly, right? I didn't want that. And I took out some mud, and I took out everything below 103 hertz and everything above 14 kilohertz. So that's the snares. Put them together, they sound like this. And that's the drums basically. I have a last group, and that's just two groups in one group, and that's a big part, but that's just the fill basically. I'm not gonna take this apart. All in all, it's just some compression, some reverb for the toms, and everything else is just there to create this fill, right? So that's the entire drum part. I'm gonna play this part right here because it basically, actually this part, because it has everything I just talked about. Right, with a metronome just for the fill. Right, so that's the drums. Not a lot of plugins going on with the drums. Now, that's a big part, the bass part of the song. I actually did bass and the entire low end part of my tracks wrong for a very long time. What I used to do was I layered bass, and you're really not supposed to do that. I layered bass a bunch. And so what ended up happening is phase cancellation. And I'm gonna explain that to you very briefly. If I'm not butchering that spelling, I think I am. Phase cancellation. Yeah, I completely butchered that. So basically, what happens in phase cancellation is music works in wavelengths, right? Sounds always, that's just physics. Sounds always come in wavelengths, right? So that's how a sound looks in physics. We have positive information and we have negative information. Usually, if a sound is proper, if you can say it that way, the red line will be shifted to the right or left slightly or quite a bit, and that will mean that it will not cancel each other out entirely. If this happens, that's called phase cancellation, because as you can see, there's numbers here. We have a wave that peaks at a volume at 1 of 1 at the exact same time that another wave that's layered peaks at a volume of -1. So if you do simple math, +1 plus -1 equals 0, right? So what you will end up having is an information of sound that will be 0, so you won't hear anything. And fun fact, that's how noise cancelling earphones work. So Apple earbuds, Samsung buds, headphones, over-ear headphones that have the aspect of noise cancelling, what they do is nature sends in a blue wavelength and they blast a red wavelength against nature. And so what ends up happening is nature get cancelled out, and nature also cancels out the blast that they send in. So that's just very rough. I'm not a technician, so I don't know how they did it exactly, but I do know that it's based on this exact principle. So that's a fun fact for all of you. That's how your earphones actually work. Alright, back to the song. Alright, so we have the bass line here. The mistake I made was layering bass lines, and that ended up resulting in phase cancellation. So the proper way, the right way, the correct way to do a bass line is to only have one bass track that is allowed part in the low end frequency range. That's also why I cut out almost in every singular instrument right here, except the kick drum. I basically cut out every low end information. That's just in order to have the bass, to leave more space for the bass, right? So what we have here to finally get to the point is 3 bass layers. I have only one layer with the entire low end information, and as far as I know it will be that one. Yes, so that's the low end bass. That's the only aspect of the entire song that will give you that low end information in that bass, right? And as you can see, I actually boosted the low end information here, and that's the only instrument in this entire track, apart from group 49, that has information below 109.7 hertz right here. So anything else, I just did this. I did a low cut and I just took everything out, right? But I didn't do that here because it's a bass. And I also took out the high-end information, this time up to 9 kilohertz, just because the bass has nothing to do above 10 kilohertz. It doesn't belong there. So that's the first layer of the bass. I have it layered with another bass, but as you can see, I cut out everything about that bass below 173.5 hertz. That's just because I wanted to layer the bass to get it to be more punchy and more active, right? So that's the first layer. That's the second layer. And I did the same thing to the third layer, same thing as in the second layer. I used some kickstart, actually, that's just some simple side chain compression in order to still, that's, the thing is, even though I have only one other instrument that is allowed in the low end frequencies, and that's the kick, you still have to make space if you have just one more instrument. So I used kickstart and I did some side chain compression, and I actually filtered that. I ran that through the kick drum, and I did some simple EQing to take out the low end frequency above 173 hertz again. So that's the third layer. Right? And all of them are Serum presets. Once again, we have Feed the Mouse. So that's actually an artist, quite a famous artist called deadmau5. Some of you might know it, some of you might know him, but he's a trance and EDM artist, and they actually made a preset for him, about him in Serum, and I quite like it, so I used it here, and I also used it in the low end layer, as you can see, but I just EQ'd it differently. So these same two layers together will sound like this. Right, and I added a third layer just to fill the gap and to add some body. That's everything there is to say about the bass. I added some reverb, some slight reverb. I know a lot of people say don't ever add reverb to your bass. I did. Sue me for it, I don't care. I added some saturation and I added some EQ. I added some low end and I took out some high end. Basically, the reason why I added some reverb and some OTT is just because I wanted it to be more present in the entire mix. So if you just take out the reverb and OTT, it's very dry and it doesn't fit the mix that well. But if you add a tiny bit of reverb and a tiny bit of OTT, just 7%, it will fit a lot better. Right, and it doesn't really affect the low end of the bass that much. Right, it just adds to it, and I think that's quite good. So that's the bass, some saturation, some EQ, nothing too special. And then we have a sub bass. We are closing up with this video right here. Finally, we have a sub bass group. It's 2 layers. They are run through a bus with compression, saturation, and some EQ, with a boost in the low end, and cut out everything above 1374.8 Hertz. And that's just because it's a sub bass and it's just sub, right? Nothing high about a sub. And we have some kickstart to the same kick drum, and we have 2 layers, Serum preset once again, and some EQ. I took out everything above below 200 Hertz because same story, you cannot have a bass layered with 2 times low end. So we have a low end bass, sub bass, and a high end sub bass to let it cut through the mix a bit better. And we have this. Right, that's the bass. And it's all sent to another bus called bass with some kickstart, some glue compression, and some more EQ. Just cutting out everything below 15K and adding a tiny bit more low end to the entire bass section, right? So we have 2 different bass parts, sub bass and bounce bass. Alright, bass, last part of the breakdown. FX. So we have a lot of groups and tracks in the effects tab, but we will be done quite fast. We have the first group, and that's just the simple ambient sound that I explained quite a lot in the first part of this video, where I just took apart the entire song. Right, and it's just run through a bus. We have 2 layers. One layer is the actual rise up layer, one layer is the impact or downfall layer, and I layered them to make this sound. I added some shaper box in order to stutter it. I added some kickstart in order to just take out the low end for whatever reason. I don't know why I did that, but I still did it. I added some reverb. I added an auto filter to push it back in the mix. I added some compression, and I added some more reverb in order to push it even further back in the mix. Right? That's the first group. We have the second two tracks. I could actually group those together, but I won't. That's just a simple. I'm so sorry. No, you know what that is. That is just the beginning of the song. That's just the city noise. So I actually layered that. The first part of the city noise is just the recording that I had. Outside my window. And the second part of that city noise is actually coming back to the original lie. No, it is a preset from the internet. So I did find one preset in the internet that I actually used, and it's just a siren, basically. Panned from right to left to give you the illusion of a police car or ambulance or fire department car passing by, and I layered those two. Right. And I also added some impacts, very simple impacts. I layered them to make them bigger. I changed it up sometimes. Right. I don't think I did anything to that. Right, that's just the fill part of the entire song. So I put them after each other. And if I'm not mistaken, I made the exact mistake that I shouldn't have made right here. So I just layered two exact same sounds and it will just add up in volume. So I won't change that now because I'm just gonna discard the changes. But I'm gonna take note of that in my head and I'm gonna change it because that's not very, very smart. Right? Yeah, it just adds up in volume. So yeah, I'm gonna note that in my head. I added some risers. I just took the synth sound. I only took the separate notes like this. I copied them, I pasted them, and I reversed them to get this sound. And it's 3 different layers. First one sounds like this. Second one sounds like this. Third one sounds like this. All together they sound like this. Right, we have another group with some more risers. It's 2 layers. The first one is this. The second one is this. Right, together they will sound like this. Yeah. So that's very simple stuff. I always added the same things. I added compression, reverb, and OTT just to undryify the sound. and in the very end, before the second part of the second chorus comes in, I added even more parts to the riser to give you that big, oh my god, we are reaching the climax of the song feeling. Right? And I layered that with that group. As you can hear, it's a different key, so they sound like this. There's a huge riser that will end up sounding like this. Right. We are done, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed this long. I think it's gonna be an hour long, the video. That's insane. But I'm gonna continue editing now, and I'm gonna upload the video. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Hey everyone, just one more time, let me say thank you to all of you who stayed with me, who watched to the end. I know it's a very, very long video. I'm editing it right now. It's over 1 hour and 20 minutes. So sometimes, just like now, there are background noises like a plane flying by, or the fire department running their stupid sirens. But I hope you can enjoy the video. To all of you who watched till the end, to all of you who actually see this now, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for staying with me. All the best. Thank you.